Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary for the government, has left Twitter this week saying that she's leaving due to misinformation and a toxic atmosphere. Now, okay, I think we will all agree that Twitter is full of misinformation and it is certainly a very toxic atmosphere, and I thought about leaving myself. I've written a couple of articles about it that I'll pin below for you to have a look at, but can the Culture Secretary really choose to leave? Isn't it their job to regulate that space and make sure that it's not full of disinformation and make sure that it's not so toxic? I mean, it is a worrying trend. Misinformation, the difficulty with misinformation on social media at the moment is that you don't really know what anyone's consuming media-wise. Like, if we were to go back 10 years, people would be reading from vaguely the same news sources. There might be news sources with different leanings. People might read something more left-wing or more right-wing, for example. But people would be watching the same news on TV, reading roughly the same things and discussing it. But the problem with social media is it's so individualised straight to your phone. The algorithm is so tailored to you that even if 5 friends are sat round using the same social media platform with vaguely the same interests, they'll be seeing completely different news items and different takes, even if they're looking at the same events. Now, those news items and those takes could be, you know, relatively accurate, or they could be completely misleading, and I think that's where the problem starts to happen. So much of the things that we see on social media are made up. AI slop. I mean, Susan Hall, I think she's in the London Assembly. Like, this woman is a politician, and she's been posting this AI slop, which is clearly fake and clearly made up to try and demonise migrants. Like, that is problematic. So I agree with Lisa Nandy's diagnosis. What I'm questioning is her solution, because surely she needs to be in that space, but she also needs to be showing leadership and regulating that space, because why are we letting Elon Musk dictate how that space is run? He is a white supremacist trillionaire who bought that space for £44 billion. Now, he spent that for a reason. That was an investment. You know, this isn't charity. That was an investment, so he controlled that market square. Recently on Twitter, I've seen my reach go down quite substantially as I've been effectively shadow banned, or, you know, the algorithm is working against me. I can see how many retweets per views that I have compared to normal. And this is a pattern. I'm also seeing it on TikTok and a few other platforms. Now, this is happening because billionaires own these spaces and they're allowed to regulate these spaces, so they promote the view that they want to promote. Now, this isn't new. Like, billionaires have been buying and owning the press for decades, you know. Rupert Murdoch and the Rothermeres and people like this who own the press and tell their version of the news in order to influence people. I guess what's worrying is the speed and individuality that can be done through social media. Now, I'm someone who has chosen to stay on X and stay on other platforms because I have a voice that I feel I can use to challenge that misinformation, to kind of put out positive examples of, you know, campaigning on certain issues, challenging misinformation, challenging power, really. And I think that's an important thing to do. But I must admit, it is pretty hard because it is a really difficult space. So I guess the question is, how do we build communities of people who can connect on social media and still provide that space for challenge, debate and discussion, you know, at the same time as holding to account misinformation and toxicity. Now, I don't necessarily have the answer, and I'm quite keen to hear what you think on this, but I think quite also keen to hear your views on whether the Culture Secretary should have left that space or not, and whether it's actually a bit of a dereliction of duty. It feels a bit like the Health Secretary saying he's not going to use the NHS because waiting lists are too long. You know, it's kind of like, well, you should be sorting that out, really. It's caused quite a stir, and obviously a lot of people criticising, and it brings up the whole discussion over free speech and can people just say whatever the hell they want. And on the one hand, yes, I guess that is free speech, but what isn't free speech is when you package it as truth when it's non-truth, and when you have an algorithm that is warped to promote that misinformation over information. Like, that's the problem we're dealing with here. And we know that the algorithm promotes right-wing content. We know that Grok distorts truth and Grok lies. And these are the things that really need challenging and really need calling out. And to be honest, you know, Twitter isn't the only example. Like, a lot of social media is guilty of this too and struggles with the same things. So I don't think it's unique to X. I think what's worse about X is how toxic Elon Musk as an individual is and how abhorrent his views are that he spreads so openly on the platform. But I don't think it's unique to X at all. So what do? Do we stay and fight? I think most people that are watching this anyway will agree that we do. But also, how do the government challenge it? What sort of things can they put in place to regulate and control this space? Because it's rapidly expanding, it's rapidly developing, and it feels like we're so far behind and we're playing catch up in terms of regulation. So big questions, not really sure what the answers is. We'll continue to think about it in this space. If you want to be part of this discussion, trying to form a group through Patreon, which you can join for free, or you can become a paid subscriber, so that we can kind of work together and explore these issues in a bit more detail, maybe do some Q&A, some discussions. Please do check that out, and yeah, let's do this.